rewind it a little bit, and then watch the people on the ground. Don't they still look frightened?
Hebrew says that it shows the moment the gates opened.
Okay, so that's confusing. Those people look scared. It doesn't have to be factual then.
Right, no, because again, with Donald Trump, they're saying, well, we got 90 charges against him, a couple have to be true. Oh, so what you're saying is that probably 88 of them are false?
Unmanned aerial vehicles filmed every moment of the movement of Hamas militants and sent it to Israeli troops. Secondly, Israeli troops deployed tanks in the town of Nir Am, located below the city of Sderot, and Israeli infantrymen hid in the woods in the area.
You're on air now, but go ahead.
What shall we call me? I don't know.
Let's call you the big. What was it? The big Balowski? What was it?
Oh, the Big Lebowski.
Lebowski. What was that from?
I think it's from the Big Lebowski.
So we got a lot going on, a lot. And I'm like, at first I was going to plan something, and make it presentable. This might not be pretty, but it's raw. Let's get updated on the war. What's going on in Israel? Let's read some comments that have kind of bugged me, some of them, and some are supportive. We're going to talk about Tim. We're not done with Tim Ballard yet. Not in the least bit. So for those of you who are boring of that, I'm sorry, but we're not done yet. And he's a human being and he's got a family. There's nothing boring about that. We're Latter-day Saints. We support people. I think a lot of the comments about Tim that have been negative are not from members of the church, but they pretend to be. And so a lot of these, what's funny is a lot of these critics of the church, they pick the lesser of the two evils. So in other words, they'll be against Elder Ballard or the apostles until, or the church. The church is lying all the time, right? The church lies. The church is wrong. The church misleads until the church condemns somebody that they don't like. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So when the church condemns somebody that they hate even more, then the church is right in their book. So it's just idiotic. Anyway, so let's get updated on the war. Let's talk about Tim. Let's go from there. I pay attention to several people on the war. And like I said, don't go away. We're going to talk about Tim. We're going to bring up the lawsuit, and I'm going to explain exactly what the factual section of the lawsuit really means. It doesn't mean it's factual, okay? And I'll explain that. And the lawsuit, which has really been a nothing burger still to me. Have you guys seen anything different when you've read it? Do you feel differently about Tim? Anyway, we'll get into that. But first, I cherry picked a few people that I felt would be, I want to give you the best update on Israel and the war that I possibly can. This guy right here is pretty cool. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. So, here we go.
Welcome to the Raptor News Channel. The Iron Dome has successfully passed the toughest test in history. Hamas's biggest trump card has been destroyed. In this process, every point in Gaza where Hamas militants are deployed is being destroyed one after another. The second and most powerful step of Operation Iron Sword has officially begun. The first target was the Hamas ambush east of Sderot. The Hamas terrorist organization has lost dozens of militants in one spot, while reports of explosions are coming out of Lebanon one after the other. Israeli warplanes responded to Hezbollah's announcement that it was launching an attack. On the United States side, 2 aircraft carriers sailed towards the Mediterranean Sea. The most critical day of the Israeli-Palestinian war has officially begun. Here, we have prepared the most important attacks and operations of the day for you. Let's start with our first big news without wasting time. Our first news came from the Sderot region of Israel. When the infiltration attempt of Hamas militants was noticed, the big ambush became the most important news of recent days. With the first light of the morning, Hamas militants launched a major infiltration attempt through Gaza towards Sderot, mobilizing around Highway 232. The militants, together with combat vehicles and armored vehicles, suddenly turned north towards Sderot. However, Israeli intelligence was aware of this infiltration attempt hours ago and began actively filming the area. Unmanned aerial vehicles filmed every moment of the movement of Hamas militants and sent it to Israeli troops. Secondly, Israeli troops deployed tanks in the town of Nir Am, located below the city of Sderot, and Israeli infantrymen hid in the woods in the area. Hamas troops would first deploy to Nir Am to complete their final preparations and launch a very sudden attack on Sderot, but the attack ended in great frustration before it began. As Hamas militants attempted to enter Nir Am from the vicinity of Route 232, they were directly targeted by Israeli tanks. As a result of the first attack, most of the armored vehicles were completely destroyed, along with the militants. The two armored vehicles then decided to move quickly towards Sderot and enter the city. During this process, the combat vehicles were discovered and destroyed by Israeli infantry hiding in the Sderot forest. Only one vehicle managed to escape from the area. One combat vehicle stopped on motorway 34, and the militants moved quickly to enter the city. Only 6 Hamas militants made their way into the city, but were quickly neutralized by the reinforcements formed by the Israeli forces to protect the city. As you can see, the Israeli forces, in a staged defense, did not allow any of the Iranian-backed militant groups to pass through. According to Israeli media reports, 56 Hamas militants in a convoy of combat trucks, vehicles, and armored vehicles were successfully neutralized. After the first ambush was successful, the Israeli air and naval forces began simultaneous joint operations. Israeli warplanes carried out airstrikes on approximately 240 different locations in Gaza. The warplanes launched sorties in succession, destroying Hamas assembly areas, ammunition depots, and camps. After the attacks of the warplanes, Israeli warships started to hit Hamas underground tunnels in Gaza with armor-piercing missiles. As you know, these underground tunnels constitute the most important supply network of the Iranian-backed Hamas terrorist organization. Militants carry missiles and rockets through these tunnels and then use these tunnels to move more safely to different parts of the city. However, as a result of the attacks launched by 4 warships, the 15-kilometer supply network in Khan Yunis and in the center of Gaza, which the militants used for attacks, was buried in the ground. These tunnels are actively used between Khan Yunis and Gaza. As Israeli operations continued, the most critical attack of the day began. Iron Dome passed the toughest test with success. Hamas militants started to launch rockets and drones at noon. The Hezbollah terrorist organization also started to launch drones and fire rockets from Lebanon. All of these attacks were successfully stopped by the Iron Dome. Thousands of rockets and drones were destroyed in the sky. It was observed that some rockets that passed the air defense systems fell into empty areas. But Hamas fired one of its most powerful and secret weapons from Gaza. The R-160 missile sent by Iran to the terrorist organization was fired from Gaza to Haifa. The ballistic missile was seen in many videos while the air attack systems were actively working. However, the ballistic missile did not pass the Iron Dome system and was successfully destroyed in the air. After the missile was destroyed, Israeli warplanes took off again. In this process, the target was drones and rockets launched from Lebanon. Israeli warplanes started to target Hezbollah camps close to the Lebanese border, where attacks were organized. Israeli artillery, located close to the border, carried out...
Let me pause this just for a second here, folks. Are you getting the idea here? The sophistication of Israel? They awoke a sleeping giant. Well, the giant wasn't really sleeping. But then you're hearing a lot of nuanced things like why was the gate left open?
There's one element of this that nobody's talking about. what the hell went wrong with U.S. and Israeli intelligence and the Israeli defense that allowed this to happen? Everybody seems to be punting that as a question for later. I think it's a question for now, if you're Israel. I mean, look, I think that Nikki Haley, I disagree with you a little bit there. I don't think she's a child. I think that she is somebody who is, like many politicians, in a position to get wealthier from war. Look at the military contracting business and otherwise. But put that to one side. The message that I would send would be very different. Get to the bottom of what allowed this gaping hole of intelligence and defense to even happen before feeding that same beast. If a doctor told you his job was to keep you from getting cancer and then you got that cancer, don't go trust that same doctor to remove your tumor. They don't let airplanes, when they crash, the pilots or the people who crash the airplane, that airliner is not the one who reviews the black box. And so I think those answers have to come now. That's not a question for later.
It's a great question. It's a question I've been pondering for a while, and it seems as though I'm not alone, as some former Israeli soldiers are apparently asking the same questions.
תקשיבו רגע, אני שירתתי כסמב"צית חי"ר במהלך מלחמת צוק איתן, אני שירתתי באוגדת עזה. כל השירות שלי היה תומכת לחימה בזמן מלחמת צוק איתן שעזה הייתה באוגדת עזה. תקשיבו לי ותקשיבו לי טוב. אין מצב בעולם שיכולה להיות כזאת התקרבות לגדר, אוקיי? מבלי שאנחנו לא נדע מזה. התצפיתניות יושבות בבונקרים 4 שעות, הן לא יכולות לעשות ככה. הן מול מסך. לא יכול להיות מצב, שום מצב, שהיו מעירים אותי בלילה על יונה. על חסידה שהתקרבה לגדר, על מקק שעבר מתחת לגדר, היו מקפיצים את כל הגזרה. איך נכנסו עם טרקטורים, 400 איש ואף אחד לא שם לב.
Now, obviously, I don't speak Hebrew. I can't even confirm to you that what just played was Hebrew, but supposedly, according to what I've been able to gather, based on the information available to me, is that apparently the translation is accurate, and so the question is, how was there such a catastrophic intelligence failure? It comes right back to the same point. It seems almost as though a lot of this is kind of written into history, like literally written into history, as if there's some sort of purposeful motive to create some sort of mass media tragic event that then justifies boots on the ground. Because supposedly, again, a lot of this is unconfirmed, I just want to add that, it's just the reporting that's surrounding this whole Israel conflict thing. Apparently, Egypt intelligence officials are now claiming that Israel ignored repeated warning of, quote, something big. The Israeli government then, of course, followed up and denied that they were ever warned, but that seems like an even less believable scenario or alternative. The idea that southern Israel could be invaded so easily by what can probably only be described as a ragtag crew, I mean, that's what Hamas is, seems almost unbelievable, considering the military might, the military funding, top-notch security, and tight ship that the Israelis run. How could this have possibly flown under the radar? How is it possible that Hamas managed to bring massive vehicles to the Israeli border, bulldozing their way through? How is it possible that Hamas infantry was able to so easily paraglide over the Israeli border? It seems almost unbelievable. This is one of the most secured, militarized zones in the world. Probably the most. Yet on that day, their Iron Dome failed to protect the city, and their borders were sieged by a small group of Hamas soldiers. Make it make sense. It feels like a perfect propaganda play. So maybe we ought to be taking a breather, taking a step back, and let things kind of settle down a little bit, let things kind of work themselves out before we start lobbying American taxpayers and voters to fund another military effort. People get so emotional and so eager. You know, I can't show you some of the posts, but there are people on literally both sides of this issue essentially openly advocating for genocide on Twitter. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's probably time to slow your roll, calm down.
There's some conspiracies, and I'm not saying that they're false conspiracies. I don't know. I'm investigating that as we speak. I'm looking into that. So if you think I don't know about that, I'll play something in a second and I'll show you what I'm talking about.
To the Hezbollah terrorist organization were destroyed. Israeli ground forces, on the other hand, started an operation to create a secure buffer zone on the borderline. It is known that there are Hezbollah militants on the Lebanese border who have entered Israeli territory and are trying to deploy in the region. In this process, clashes broke out around a small wooded area north of the Beit Hillel area. Hezbollah militants want to reduce the power of Israeli forces by deploying in cities. In this way, they want to get rid of the artillery attacks. However, Israeli special forces, divided into 3 separate groups, entered the town of Mayan Baruch from the west, south, and east. Clashes continued for about 4 hours inside the town, and dozens of Hezbollah members were neutralized. The Israeli army, on the other hand, established a perimeter around the town and closed the entrances and exits. As the Israeli army advanced to the area to form a perimeter, it was observed that a group of about 10 Hamas militants tried to escape from the town by running. The group, who wanted to cross into Lebanese territory from the northeast of the town, was spotted by an Israeli drone. The group of 10 people was completely neutralized as a result of the drone attack, and the area was completely cleared. I can say that Israeli forces have taken the first major step to create a safe zone in the region. According to breaking news, a new aircraft carrier of the United States is reported to be moving towards the Mediterranean Sea. As I mentioned in my last video, the United States is deploying in the region to protect Israeli territory from airstrikes in the event of a major foreign attack on Israel. The Israeli army, on the other hand, is gradually and with complete certainty clearing out the militant groups. The Israeli army has now begun to fully illuminate the borderline in case of attacks from Lebanon. By firing flares, both the border is illuminated and the points belonging to terrorist organizations continue to be detected. In this process, the operations will continue for a while, and the terrorist organizations in the vicinity will be completely cleared. However, I think that Iran has made the biggest mistake. After the militant groups are cleared, I think that a very large and comprehensive operation will start on the Syrian and Iranian line. Tension continues to increase day by day. The war on the territory of Ukraine is likely to continue for a long time. For the stability of the region and to prevent more people from being affected, we hope that the conflicts will be resolved at the table and with justice.
Okay, so what do you think? Is that not the creme de la creme of all updates? That's some good stuff. So I will be using, as far as humanitarian aid and all those other things, I'm not sure how much he updates on that. Maybe that's my male side of me wanting the strategic updates, the war updates, the battle updates. But anyway, I'll be using that a lot. Now I want to show you this video from Reuters. Reuters is, I guess that would be like AP Network News. Reuters is another news outlet that supplies other news outlets their news. They're all ran by the left. There's a lot of debunking going on. Well, alleged debunking. Now be careful, brothers and sisters. You got to pay attention and read between the fine lines. Be wise. Okay. Be wise and understand what you're looking at. Just because somebody puts up a wrong video of something, as you'll see in this, for instance, you'll see that somebody put up a video of a concert where people were running into a Bruno Mars concert. It could be that this was advertisement well, let's get into it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You just have to use wisdom, and I'll show you what I mean right now.
This video supposedly shows festival goers running for their lives during an attack by Hamas, but it's not true. And it's by far not the only misinformation circulating online related to the latest Israel-Hamas conflict. We'll explain. Islamist militants Hamas launched a shock offensive on Israel on October 7th. A music festival in Israel's Negev desert was one of the...
Okay, that is real. What you see right there is real. There was a real invasion from Hamas on hand gliders, or these, I guess not hand gliders, but these drones. They came in on manned drones and attacked this festival. This is real. People are running for their lives. Okay.
First targets during Hamas's surprise attacks. But unrelated footage was shared online to falsely claim it shows the rampage. Like this video posted on the social platform X with a caption saying that it shows concert goers running for their lives. Looking at the comment section, we see that some are indicating that this video was filmed during a Bruno Mars concert. Using key terms, we search for other versions of the video that can give us the clearer view. On TikTok, we see a video posted on October 5th, 2 days before the attack at the Desert Festival. The caption in Hebrew says that it shows the moment the gates opened at a Bruno Mars concert. Zooming in, we see a poster for Bruno Mars and Live Nation.
Okay, now, could this still have been the dance festival? I think it still could. And that could have been just an advertisement that was up there. I don't know where the dance festival took place because these people still seem to be, and I could be wrong, scared. The ones that you see more up close. Watch this.
That it shows the moment the gates opened at a Bruno Mars concert.
I'm going to slow this down a little bit. Rewind it a little bit. And then watch the people on the ground. Don't they still look frightened?
Hebrew says that it shows the moment the gates opened at a Bruno Mars concert. Zooming in, we see a poster for Bruno Mars and Live Nation, a company that sells and promotes.
Okay, so that's confusing. Those people look scared. It doesn't look like they're running toward a Bruno Mars concert or out of a Bruno Mars concert. And that, I mean, at dance festivals, they have advertisement for all kinds of things. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Says that
Hold on, let me put this back on regular speed. Here we go again. Here's Maui all over again. Conspiracies come and go, don't they? And it seems like they're coming in more than they're going out.
Shows the moment the gates opened at a Bruno Mars concert. Zooming in, we see a poster for Bruno Mars and Live Nation, a company that sells and promotes concert tickets. We know that the singer performed in Tel Aviv on October 4th in Hayarkan Park. In the video, we see identifiable features that can help us place it on a map, like this water slide that matches the slide at Mamadian Park at the edge of Hayarkan Park, proving this video predates the desert attack and was filmed in Tel Aviv, not the Negev desert. This clip is circulating widely, claiming to show...
And here's my other thing I wanted to say. Just because that's a wrong video doesn't mean that the attack didn't happen. Somebody just happened to put up the wrong video. But it's just real interesting that those kids look scared to me.
Headed towards Gaza. But it's not real. Searching for TikTok handle burned into the video brings us to an account that uploaded the video. Looking at the description, we see that the user says the clip was created using a computer game, the Digital Combat Simulator. This screenshot falsely claims to show a US government memorandum on the approval of $8 billion of military funding to Israel on October 7th. But it's fake. Here's how we found out. No such memorandum is on the White House website, and a White House spokesperson told us it's fake. The wording on the screenshot matches very closely to a memorandum that was published in July on the approval of $400 million of aid to Ukraine, proving this is yet another misleading claim on the war between Hamas and Israel.
All right, so my point here is be careful. When we discuss conspiracies, there are conspiracy facts and there are conspiracy theories and there are conspiracy falsehoods. All right. Like I personally don't believe that there are lizard people. I don't even know you guys know who David Icke is. I know some of you have heard of David Icke. But then others have said, no, that's actually, there are lizard people. It's symbolic for people that follow Lucifer. So go figure. But there is conspiracy fact. Now, Okay, so now let's get into Tim Ballard here. Okay, the lawsuit. Here come the lawsuit. Now, if you go up this is, I'll leave the link to this. Newsbreak, second lawsuit filed against Tim Ballard by married couple. This is separate from what was going on before this. So you got these two couples that are suing for monies. Okay. Everyone keeps bringing up the same good, because I'm going to get into the comments section in a second here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the document, but a lot of people are bringing up good points. These women are adults. They were and are adults. And Andrea brought up last night, and most of this is that I've heard from have been other women, not men, women. Okay. So don't cry misogyny here. My wife Andrea brought up the fact that these women are adults and they're spending money. They're going on this trip. They've got this exotic thing in their mind. I'm going to go save kids and I get to stay in, nice places, whatever. And then it talks about the millionaires that went on these trips. Well, most of these millionaires, I've seen them on YouTube. One of them is Tony Robbins. And then these other millionaires that invested in some of the the covert operations where they rescue children. One of them, including the Attorney General, and I see the Attorney General is now turning on Tim. Horrible. Or is he just defending some of the women? I'm not sure. We don't know if some of these people are being bought and paid for too. Some of these politicians. But anyway, these rich guys, let me just speak my language. These rich guys that were invited on trips by Tim, it was so that Operation Underground Railroad could get funding by them. They went on the operations and they're real. Okay. And I'm going to, as I go through this, I'm going to show you how a lot of things don't make sense. For one thing that doesn't make sense is that in one part of the document, because I'm not going to go through I'm going to leave the link to this, by the way, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But you guys can go read this. I'm going to cover a few things. But one thing in the lawsuit is it states that Tim got funding from these rich guys so that he could go stay in massage. So he could frequent massage parlors and bars and basically party, right? But then on the other end, he's going to get psychics. Okay. There's been a lot in the past, a lot of law enforcement entities, have used psychics to try to find missing persons. So that's not uncommon. I don't know. Look, you guys keep throwing stuff in that's irrelevant. First of all, Tim's testimony, I don't know where it's at. I don't know if he believes in other fringy things that I don't and that some of you don't. But that has nothing to do with him rescuing children. Okay? His religious beliefs, I'm not getting into his testimony. I'm not going to get into it. And I'm not going to get into whether he thinks using psychics is a good thing or not. I'm not going to get into what he feels about the Book of Mormon, about a lot of people started getting into this being a conspiracy about the Heartlanders against the Mesoamerican Book of Mormon believers. Okay. That's not what this is. And we're not going to go there. And I don't care I do care, but yeah, if Tim and I were talking theology and religion, then I would care. But since we're not, and I'm concerned about him getting his good name back, I could give two blanks whether he used psychics or not. Now, here's where let me go back. Here's where the contradiction comes in. You can't be both. You can't be spending money. They talk about him spending money in frivolous places, massage parlors and doing all kinds of crap, partying, meaning he's not working. But then he's spending money on psychics, which means he's working. He's trying to find kids, which I don't know if he was even doing the psychic thing, but which is it? That's contradicting yourself in this judgment. You're saying he's working one moment and then he's not in the other. So let's go through this real quick. I'm just going to skim through here. Let me explain something to you. This is not factual. This is the plaintiff's side, period. So when you see this right here that says factual allegations, that does not mean it's factual. For instance, his excommunication. Yeah, this is under factual allegations, and it's section, or whatever you want to call it, number 124, which is so vague. Is this language that we speak, brothers and sisters? Is this language that we use as members of the church? Is this something without, upon reasonable belief and inquiry, upon learning of the couple's ruse and how Ballard used it, the Mormon church excommunicated Ballard. That's all we got. Now, this does not have to be true. This is the plaintiff speaking, because Andrea and I looked it up. This is called a complaint and jury demand.
Morning. How are you?
Good. Brother,
Yes.
you are an attorney, correct?
Yes, I work with large insurance companies.
Are you familiar with what's going on with Tim Ballard?
Tim Ballard.
The guy that did the movie Sound of Freedom?
Oh, yeah, the rescuing the children.
Yes. So he's being sued. Can I ask you just a legal question? It's really simple.
Sure, a generic one, but I didn't know he was being sued. But go ahead.
Yes. You've heard of a complaint and jury demand, right?
Right.
Do they have to be true, factual?
No lawsuit. I mean, look at what they're doing to Trump, right? And the funny thing.
Okay, I've got you. I'm recording this. Is that okay? Don't worry. Nobody knows your name. You're just giving me factual stuff. It doesn't have to be factual then.
Right. No, because again, with Donald Trump, they're saying, well, we got 90 charges against him. A couple have to be true. Oh, so what you're saying is that probably 88 of them are false?
Right. So lawsuits, when they have the section that says factual, it's called parties of jurisdiction and venue. And then you go down and it says, because I'm reading the lawsuit, it says there's a part that is called it's literally called it's right here. It's the, it is called factual allegations.
Okay, right.
But they're
allegations.
Okay, there we go. So this is all the plaintiff, basically. This is just what the plaintiff is alleging, right?
Right. And fortunately and unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of this, the Amber Heard, the girl that's suing the baseball player,
Right. And actually, he's winning that because he just found a whole bunch of texts and video where it doesn't line up with her timelines and everything.
But in her defense, she came out and said that she disagrees with the physical evidence.
Yeah, right.
Now, it is interesting that Ballard, right? Tim Ballard?
Yes.
That he, was considering running for Mitt Romney's seat?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I did some of my own investigative reporting, and I found out that George Soros bought Vice. George Soros bought Vice 2 months ago. Vice got the request for comment from the church 3 days after it was leaked that Tim Ballard was going to run for the Senate. So George Soros also funded Mitt Romney and Obama in 2012.
Right.
Now Josh Romney is going to run for the Senate. Do you see what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, no. We would call it election interference, but it's just
Exactly.
You know, if I got money, I have the right to do certain things with my money. And, you know, if I want to buy a huge prime rib, then I can do that compared to maybe a hot dog that everybody else has to get.
But what's the fine line between shadow governments and, non-governmental organizations using their money to fund our, you know what I mean?
Right.
So basically, the president of the United States is. Sorry, go ahead.
I say, especially when it involves other countries and different things that we can do, even if we don't want to make money off of them, even if it's just for pure, I don't know, to be interrupt things, to, I don't want to say antagonistic. You know, sometimes it's just like. It's like the Romans, right? Let's throw the Christians in there with the lions and entertain ourselves, you know?
Absolutely.
Not anything.
Yep, that's right. So, okay, so I really appreciate your help. So it is like Trump, though. It's like, look at all of, look, there's so much of this going on. If we don't recognize it for what it is, it's called undermining people and looking for imperfections. Like, I don't care. I don't need Tim Ballard to be perfect. But what they do is they try to smear him with the worst case scenario. And then when that doesn't come true, we're like, oh, look, he did do something wrong in his life. That means he's guilty of all of it.
Right. Right. And that's, and how they're able to overlook some of the things that are more obvious and support it, and, you know, so
you defend people, you defend companies against lawsuits, right?
I technically defend the insurance company that the employer has hired. We deal a lot with extortionists on the other side.
So you're familiar with these lawsuit papers. So it's
some of them. Workers' comp is
a little different. Well, so the same thing with Tim Ballard. What happened is he trained these women to go undercover with him. Now they're trying to sue him because they said they were basically that he spiritually manipulated them because they were Latter-day Saints and he was too. They had to pretend to be couples. They had to pretend to be a couple around people that are trafficking children. So they had to look like they were a couple. So if you don't be believable and you're not acting well, like they had to even hug each other. And you know what I mean?
Heaven forbid. They have to be like actors.
Yes.
Like on the big screen.
Yes.
And I know I hate it. Don't you hate it when they go to wherever they go and they get these actors and they force them into these roles and say, okay, you're going to be an actor and you're going to get paid for this and this is going to be your job and you're going to help people. And so heaven forbid those women, by hugging him or whoever they had to hug, saved children. and they couldn't just go over there and tell the bad guys, hey, stop being bad. Let the kids go.
Right. So they're using the wiggle room and vague nuances to sue him.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure he knew. One, I didn't realize he was LDS. I've seen stuff about him and beliefs and faith. Two, I mean, Yeah, this was part of what we signed up for when we came to Earth.
That's right. That's right. And him running for the Senate and George Soros buying Vice. Okay, so the church never came out and said that they gave the request for comment to Vice, but Vice is saying that the church made a statement, but they didn't. So Vice could pretty much lie about anything, and the church isn't going to come out up against the Gadianton robbers, right?
And with the AI too, I mean, they could take President Nelson's last talk and just swap it around, and all of a sudden he's advocating whatever they want.
Exactly. So we have to be careful, right?
Yeah. So
that's right. Thank you so much, brother.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. All right. Bye. Well, there you have it, folks. He's an attorney what did he say? He defends against lawsuits. He's a workman's comp attorney, but he knows that these are allegations. So when you say factual allegations, that's not saying the same thing. It's one or the other. It's an allegation or it's a fact. All right. So anyway, so you guys go read the whole schmadilio. I'm not going to read the whole schmadilio here, but what we are doing is as we went through it, I saw nothing more than what I've seen already, but maybe a little more colorful. I think a lot of these women made up some of this stuff. For instance, him killing himself. I think when you see these, that's probably something one of their own husbands maybe said. Sounds like they were having marital problems themselves. And Tim's being blamed for their marital problems, if that makes any sense. But what are your thoughts about what's going on
with Tim?
And what shall we call you? You're on air now, but go ahead.
What shall we call me? I don't know.
Let's call you the big. What was it? The big Balowski. What was it?
Oh, the Big Lebowski.
Lebowski. What was that from?
I think it's from the Big Lebowski.
I never saw that, but go ahead.
Oh gosh. I feel I'm put on the spot.
I'm sorry. This is just a recording. I can delete this part if you want.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, so what do I think about Tim?
So if you read so for instance, let me read you something. Additionally, Ballard would get ketamine treatments and have a scribe come in with him while he would talk to the dead prophet Nephi and issue forth. This is from the allegations in the lawsuit.
Okay.
Forth prophecies about Ballard's greatness and future as a United States Senator, President of the United States, and ultimately the prophet of Ballard's church. I don't know if I believe all this, but anyway, to usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ. Do you know why I don't believe all this? Because he has written a couple books, and this isn't the language that he speaks.
Yeah, well, I with the books you're referring to, those are the like with the covenant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. So there's a screenshot. I don't know if this is a text or what. And it says he is stepping outside of himself. He is himself 100% while in K state, ketamine. While in ketamine, ultimately, true serum can say all. If he needs to say, God speaks to him. It sounds like if he was having some word of wisdom problems, we say a lot of crazy things. It sounds like he was under a lot of stress to me. It sounds like he was working hard to save children. And once again, coming from someone that has had word of wisdom issues in his past, which I have, I am not judging anyone that has been there. And that still does not say much about, there are good people that have struggled with the word of wisdom. But let me go ahead. Let me read the rest of this. asking God, Nephi, Tom, Harrison, and angels, what do I need to do? Help to prepare himself. Forgive me, Father and Mother. I don't know what this is. This is recordings from a psychologist. With this freedom, I bring love and light. With this freedom, he effortless gives love and light. In this freedom, I see and love. Okay. It just goes on. Why did you send me here? I just want to help people. What? Okay. So it sounds like he's incoherent maybe, but things like, I just want to help people. What have I done to these people? Father, Mother, please protect me, Tom. I don't know what this is, but anyway, it looks like it's obviously like he's in some sort of trance. Look, I don't know where his testimony is. I don't know where he was at moments of his life. Was this 5 years ago? If somebody saw me 7 years ago when I went through my divorce and I was having my own problems, they could judge me. But right now I go to the temple. I'm remarried. I teach seminary, and I have had spiritual experiences that I've never had before in my life.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So it's funny. Whenever I hear allegations, my first instinct is, well, are they true? Because and here's the thing. I don't know. Maybe they are. Let's just assume that everything that is being said, he goes to a medium or whatever. I don't know why that's anyone's business, whether or not it is or isn't. And if he has like any sort of ideas, like maybe there was some sort of like the medium was telling him like, oh yeah, you've got like future in the United States Senate, president.
Right.
It's like, that's just somebody saying something. You know what I mean? And is Tim feeding into that? Is he agreeing with that? And even if he was, why does that matter? Like, to me, it's like, what's the point? Like, everyone is the hero of their own story. I mean, how many times, as a kid, do people like have theme music in the back of their mind while they're doing something cool, right? I love the scripture, by their fruits ye shall know them. And I would say, okay, well, let's look at the fruits, because a million people will say Trump is a horrible person. He's racist. I'm like, okay, where's the racist stuff? And what's funny is when you start looking at proof, and I'm doing air quotes, proof, it actually proves the exact opposite, that he's not a racist. It's like, who is Tim? Okay, he left his work, working for the government, who, if you have your eyes even slightly open, you can see that they are corrupt beyond measure. He leaves that to start a nonprofit to help kids. That's a fruit that you can judge by.
Absolutely.
Okay? I'm not saying he, maybe didn't get sidetracked on this path. I don't know.
But that's not what the lawsuit's about. The lawsuit's about him manipulating women sexually and spiritually.
See, and here's the thing. Is that true? Maybe not. I don't know. Most and so far these women have wanted to stay anonymous for reasons that I don't know. Maybe, and I'm not going to be one to judge that, because maybe they don't want it to affect their. Living in Utah, I know what it's like living here. It's like, and most likely these women are probably from Utah. Utah is kind of like it's kind of horrible in a lot of ways. Especially like if somebody knows your name, your whole reputation could be ruined.
Right.
On top of that. But
and in the comments section, somebody said, I know a few women just like this. That's why I've said we shouldn't condemn him until we know both sides of the whole story. One thing, and like you brought up a good point, and I want you to continue to talk because you're saying amazing things, and I'll shut up. Let me just say this real quick to interject and to add to what you said about that. There are these women, I've seen a lot of comments that say, aren't these women big girls? Aren't they wearing their big girls' pants? They went into this knowingly. They didn't leave while they were there. Maybe some of them did. It sounds like women that went out, like these new charges where this new lawsuit with these couples that said the women spent money and they want the money back. They were overspending. Their husbands got mad. It sounds like they were having marital problems already.
Yeah.
and they wanted to go on this exotic thing where they rescue children, and maybe it wasn't what it was all up to be. Oh, it was work. Oh, we actually had to act like we were together, otherwise we get shot in the head. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and here's the thing. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was just some, maybe some of them are bored housewives. Maybe some of them are genuinely all about, like helping the kids, and they were, they are wearing their big boy or big girl pants.
Right.
We don't know. So far it's allegations.
Absolutely.
I grew up in a world where it was guilty until proven, or sorry, opposite of that. Innocent until proven guilty. And it's funny, when I was watching your video yesterday, and as I was watching it, I was actually thinking like, oh, and it's just like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, once again. And then right after you actually like showed clips from that trial, and I just thought, yeah, because we live in a world now where it's like the Me Too movement sparked something that was both good and bad. It opened up the door so that people could see that there were horrible people out there like Harvey Weinstein, which I find hilarious, because there's all these videos surfacing of all these people who are prominent figures talking about how great of a person he is. Now, here's the thing. Maybe there's a side that I never saw. The guy's a creep, in my opinion, right?
Right.
But then again, maybe they know something that I don't. It's like I'm one of my good friends has actually done a lot of work for Tim. He knows him on a personal level. I have not asked his opinion on it, mostly just because whatever, if he wants to share it.
Right.
But in my opinion, it's like here's the thing, anything's possible.
Does somebody need to do that, though? That's what it comes down to. Does somebody have to go out and go, hey, I just want you to know I'm innocent and I didn't do that? Hey, knock, knock, knock. Just want you to know I didn't do that. Okay, I'm glad you came by because we wanted you to know. We wanted to know from you that you didn't do that.
Well, and honestly, a lot of it's going to go into like preformed biases where it's like the people that want to believe that will say, see, he said he's not guilty. And then the people that don't want to believe it will say, well, he's just lying. Like, they will make up their own stories in their mind. And that's the thing is, as humans, we are geared, like we're conditioned so that we will put people in boxes. We will make assumptions on people. That's part of.
Oh yeah, we put them on like this whole scenario when it's not our own lives. We go, well, there's nuances in my life, but when it comes to Tim, who I really don't care about, I'm going to put him on a stage where there's only a couch, a picture on the wall, and these people over here pointing a finger at him. And I go, there it is. That's the whole scenario right there. And there's nothing more. There's nothing behind the stage. There is no audience. Do you know what I'm saying? For instance, do you have a moment? Do you have to go?
No.
All right, let me read a couple of these comments and we'll talk about, unless you did you want to finish your thought there?
No, yeah, well, I was just going to say that, that's human nature for us to do that. And really it's like, we are created creatures. I mean, we are children of our Father in heaven. He is the creator. He's the master creator, right?
Right.
We do the same thing. We will create stories in our minds for people that we like. We'll create stories in our minds for people that we dislike. So many people have...
Or just people we have no opinion over whatsoever.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And really what it comes down to is, don't put someone in a box. You have to look at what the data says. And this goes back to the fruits comment. By their fruits ye shall know them. It's like, okay, who is this person? Is this person someone who is like most politicians that will like change his opinion depending on whether or not he gets in power? I don't know. I don't think so. It's like, to me, it's like it speaks of the opposite of what Tim's done. But then again, once again, I don't know Tim personally. I don't know if, and even people who do know him personally, maybe he is still guilty.
Right.
Once again, these people are not coming forward. They're not saying like, hey, I'm so-and-so. And I get that. Because if you do announce who you are, you can be opening yourself.
And a loss, and we're forgetting one big key. Well, two keys. And one of them's related to what you said. putting people in a box is horrible, because what you're doing is you're saying that my life is worthy of the atonement because it's complicated. And I'm really a good person, even though I do bad things. And I want the Savior's blood to protect me from hell. But as far as my neighbor, you know, this is what it is. It's like the Three Little Pigs. You know, the story has a beginning, end, and the beginning, middle, and end, and that's it. Stop looking at people like they aren't just as important as you. They are. And we put Jesus in a box. Okay, we're Latter-day Saints. Don't do that. Okay, don't do that.
Well, and we put a lot of people, like we put the apostles and the prophets in a box. Like, oh, they're infallible. They can't make mistakes. And it's like, they are the first ones to say, hey, we made a mistake. You know, it's like people wanted to call the prophet Joseph Smith a prophet, and he's like, just call me Joseph. You know,
right?
It's like it that's the thing is I don't know. It's just
no. You've hit it completely on the head. And just like Jesus, how many words do we have? We have the New Testament. That's it, and from the Book of Mormon. How are you going to? You're not gonna. You don't. We don't know much about the character of Christ. What we do, unless we know about the character of Christ that we need to know, comes from the Holy Ghost. But as far as, well, they didn't do temple rituals like this, or they didn't do baptisms for the dead. You're putting history in a box. You're saying if it doesn't talk about it in the Bible, then it didn't happen. Same with people's personal lives. Just because you don't see what's happening, or you see what's didn't happen, either way, doesn't mean it's not something more complex than what you can imagine in your mind's eye. Let me read this real quick. It said, let me read some of these comments. Someone said, I felt truth, Troy, when you spoke about if he did what he did to protect children, why would he do this to women? I said that in my last video. I said, somebody that wants to protect children and did it for years and years and years, why would he treat women like this? If he's not someone that believes in abuse. It's just, what I'm saying is that's one point for him as far as his character is concerned. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because as you're saying this, I just thought of this other aspect as well. Something that we didn't mention is Tim is a celebrity. Celebrities have stalkers. These stalkers are people who they self-obsess over somebody. You know, and I'm not saying these women are. I'm saying it has to be considered that maybe some of them could be like they want to be the woman in Tim's life.
That's funny you said that. That's funny you said no, because the next comment says this is Miss Yaya, and then I want you to continue. She said these women have unrequited love for Tim in their fantasy minds. Now, we don't know them, so this is alleged, okay?
Yeah, of course.
And then she goes on to say, once the CR, what was the CR, was over? What's big CR? What does that stand for?
Oh my gosh, I know this. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, is it like PR? Once the cool ride? I don't know.
Customer relations? I don't know.
That could be. Once the journey was over, they wanted more. He didn't respond, and now they're pissed. That's what she said, and that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen examples of stuff like this happening, like where a woman, a girlfriend or something, she would lower her standards for a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is to snag a man, and when the man has moved on and he's no longer interested in this woman, then now it's his fault. All the bad decisions that this woman has made since she lowered her standards were brought back to him.
Right.
Taking accountability for what her actions were.
No.
She is trying to assign that blame to somebody else. And that's the thing is, it takes, I will say this, I always respect when people will say, I was wrong. I made a mistake. When politicians say it, I don't believe it that much because they literally do it every 5 seconds. They're like chameleons that just will say whatever it takes. But like a lot of the time, it's something to consider as well. And that's the thing. So many people want to say, "Oh, this is the way it is." It's like there is black and white. Black and white comes down to like what is right and what is wrong. But when it comes to people and humans, there's a lot of complicated things, and there's a lot of things to consider. Like, I mean, we're talking about whether or not these allegations are true, and whether or not these women like maybe had something else going on there, like whether it was unrequited love or anything like that. But like, I mean, it goes back to something else where it's like the timing doesn't seem suspicious to anybody. I mean, and this is why I love that.
That's why I go back to the 5 degrees from Kevin Bacon, or what is it? Go ahead.
Yeah. It's just it's like your video. It's like Zorro.
You could say it. Just say it. I don't care.
George Soros buys Vice News, and then not long after, I mean, and here's the thing: Vice News was already like anti-Mormon, right? But like then right after that, something comes out against Tim Ballard, and then we like find out that he was funding Romney, who was stepping down. And honestly, I would not be surprised if some sort of like. And maybe this is me putting.
Well, I guarantee you, Josh is going to announce his candidacy. I guarantee you that. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like maybe their whole thing was like, okay, well, we already have Governor Cox on our side because he's a weasel by himself, right?
Right.
We just need to take over Utah. Utah's like our pet state. We just need someone in the Senate that we can, get the final puzzle piece in place, right? And again, I'm making an assumption, right? And that's fine. Whatever. Everyone can. This is how scientists will prove out theories. Is they will have a theory. They'll have an idea of what something will do, and then they have to, do the tests.
You got the hypothesis and the
either prove or disprove their theory.
Right.
Time will tell, because there's really no way for me to be like, oh, let's see if Josh, announces his candidacy and if George Soros backs him up. I don't know about that, but I'll tell you right now, it's like anytime that the media says, don't listen to Russell Brand. Do you know what I do? I go out and I watch Russell Brand's latest video.
Right. No doubt.
And it's not because I'm like, oh, I'll show you.
No, because we believe in agency. Stop taking our agency away.
Yeah, and
stop telling Utah. Come on, Utah's 90% Latter-day Saint. We've all been raised. Most people have been raised there with the ideology that agency is important. Yet most people there want to take away your right to vote for who you want to. That's what's happening here.
Yep. Yeah. No. And that's the thing. Is Utah is. It's funny because we're heavily conservative here.
Well, in a weird way. What was the name that came in and said, "You guys are the weirdest conservatives I've ever seen in the United States." You've got Republicans waving LGBTQ flags outside their homes.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's funny because like how you said we could put Christ in a box. That's kind of part of the reason why.
Well, you guys have Mormon guilt.
Oh well, yeah, sure, I guess, but so many people will say to me like, well, oh, I almost said my name. Whew, that was close.
It's okay. What do you want to go by, Bob?
No, Lebowski's cool.
Lebowski. Okay, this is Lebowski, folks. By the way,
people will say Lebowski. They'll say Lebowski. Christ loved everyone, and he said love everyone. And I'm like, that's true. And what my wife loves to say to me is, it's like, so many people will say like, well, God loves me no matter what. It's like, that was never the question. Him loving you, that's always been a solid yes. The question is do you love him? That's really, because he says, and Christ says, if you love me, keep my commandments. It's that simple. If we love him, we will keep his commandments. He doesn't. There is no condition on his love for us. And the thing is, so many people won't focus on that. forgetting about Christ who came in and like threw over the tables, you know, in the temple with the money changers. No one wants to talk about that Christ. No one wants to even no one even thinks or talks about the fact that when Christ returns, he's not coming like, oh, everything's all peaceful.
Well, he's still going to burn the earth, okay? He's not coming down waving a rainbow flag. I'll tell you that.
Of course not.
Well, and here's the other thing. Lebowski, here's the other thing. When my dad spanked me when I was younger, when it was done, I don't know if you got spanked, but I did.
Oh, yeah.
My dad would tell me he loved me. He wouldn't give me a hug like right afterwards, but it was like 5 minutes later, he'd come in the room, give me a hug and say, you know, I love you. And I just want you to choose the right. Because I had to be told to choose the right a lot. Okay. Let me read a couple of these real quick. So, Lassen A. Jensen stated, let me read like a few and then we'll talk about it. But you stop me if you hear something that resonates with you. He describes the 5 to 7 women that posed as the wives and girlfriends of the endured time. There might be typos. Said there's only a small pool of who it could be, but he hasn't been able to confirm if it's them or not because they are nameless and faceless. I find that troublesome. Is it really them or someone else? Or are they afraid because they know they are lying? Or are they afraid because he's going to be like, oh, I see. Yeah, well, I don't put it past you guys. Yeah, I had some problems with you stalking me afterwards. My wife had to change our number. You know, what's really going on here? He did this obvious. Go ahead.
I was going to say, alternatively, it could be completely true, and they're keeping their like who they actually are. They're keeping that secret because they don't want to get the backlash, because there are a lot of people that loved him and believe him no matter what, you know. And so, like, in the event that they are telling the truth, and here's the thing, right? It's funny. So the reason I didn't answer your call was I was actually giving a lesson to like some high school students. They had me come in and we were talking about photography, and I was explaining stuff about like astronomy, and I was explaining like how frequencies work, like with the electromagnetic spectrum with visible light and, you know, light outside of our, like, what we can perceive. And I showed the teacher afterwards, because I couldn't show the kids, but I showed her a camera that's been altered so that it can see a different wavelength of light. And it
Right.
blew her mind. Like, she could not. She's like, that changes how you can see the world. I'm like, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like just perception is everything. And so, like, maybe in these women's mind, maybe they were truly wronged by him. But here's the thing: we don't live in our justice system is not based on people's feelings. It is based on the law.
Well, I was talking to sorry, let me just say this real quick. I was talking to a private eye who used to be a cop, and he did undercover drug stuff. He said, if you're not playing the part to the T, these people aren't dumb. They're not naive. These drug dealers and child traffickers and human traffickers, they are scrutinizing you constantly. They are looking always for a rat or a mole or someone that's going to put them in prison forever.
Yeah.
They will kill you.
Yeah.
They will, and these women knew that.
Right.
So if he's like, babe, you're going to have to kiss me in the hot tub. You're going to have to put your arm around me.
You're just going to have to kiss me. You're going to have to kiss me.
Right.
Like, kiss.
You're going to have to spit that alcohol in my mouth. You're going to have to do this, that, the other. You're going to have to maybe even drink an alcoholic drink. We're rescuing children from Do you guys really understand what's going on here? This is no joke. This guy is being accused of doing what he does for a living. Does that make sense?
Well, and it's interesting because in the movie, Sound of Freedom, we actually see some of the deception, you know, that happens. And some people may look at Tim Ballard and say, I disagree with his methods. Okay. Well, either way, whether you disagree or agree with them, they're very effective. It's like, oh, I disagree with how Trump, he was a mean tweet guy. It's like, yeah, well, no one was really threatening to like bomb the U.S. when he was in office too. So like, it's like he was effective. It's like, and that's the thing is like, Tim Ballard's very effective. It works. We see it in Sound of Freedom. He was able to, Jim Caviezel, when he plays his character, is able to convince the discussing pedophile in the movie, hey, I'm actually on your side. I'm going to get you off.
Right.
As long as you scratch me,
And that's a very good point you're bringing up, Lebowski. That is you're going to be Lebowski from now on. That's a very good point, because that's the game he plays, folks. That is what he does. He doesn't have to just be, not only does he have to be in character, he has to prove to these bad guys that he is what he says he is. And how do you do that? You smell like it. You wake up like it. You eat like it. You drink like it. You act like you're lusting after something. You have to be that.
Yeah.
You remember those movies from the 70s where they were, a lot of junkie movies came out in the 70s, and we had Hill Street Blues and we had stuff like that. My grandpa used to watch, was it Hill Street Blues when I was a kid? But there was always there was that movie about the heroin junkie. And then there was the cops. There was always they were showing cops this is when cops started to really get into doing undercover work and wearing wires, and they had to do the drugs. They had to be a drug addict. There's a movie, there's a book I read in high school about, that Donnie Brasco, Joseph Pistone, the FBI agent that went undercover to take down the Gambino family and others in the mafia. He had to be mafia.
Oh yeah.
The only thing I think he didn't do was kill someone, but he hasn't even said whether he's done that or not yet.
Well, and we see a great point you're bringing up, because we actually see examples of this all the time in pop culture. I mean, how many times does an actor do like where they do method acting, where they literally will put themselves in that situation so that they can act better, right? And we see some of the things that are problematic about this, and this is why I love Tim Ballard's story so much, is because he basically says, I've had to go to some really, really dark places to save these children. And basically, it's actually his story is a testament to the power of the atonement, because it's only through Christ and his faith that he's been able to go into hell to get these children and to come back.
Yeah, and when it makes me sick when this lawyer and others say that it was spiritual manipulation when he reads a scripture about Nephi having to do unconventional things to bring about the good of mankind, or to bring forth the scriptures like chopping off Laban's head. That's what they're doing. They're chopping off Laban's head. They're going in, and these women are like, yeah, he would manipulate with us. And I turned to Andrea and I said, well, then we're manipulating children every morning in seminary. We're telling them the scriptures are manipulative, period.
Well, everything's manipulative.
There is something called good manipulation.
Well, I wouldn't even say manipulation. I would say that it's
convincing.
No, I wouldn't even say convincing. I would say it's okay. I am huge. Like I love the way Christ teaches, because Christ doesn't just say like, oh, I'm going to tell you what you should be doing. It's everything he does is pretty much in a parable. It's a story. It's a way that you can relate. It's a way that you can connect with the underlying message. And what's so great about parables is that everyone who listens to them will get their own interpretation of what they need to learn. Correct?
Right.
So in this case, it's like these women might be having a hard time. Like, imagine. This woman says, I actually want to help do the undercover thing. I really want to give back. I want to help these kids. Okay, so to do that, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm really uncomfortable with X, but I'm okay with Y. only way for you to save these kids is to do X, Y, and Z. Now, it can be considered manipulation or coercion depending on what the person's main motives are, right? And so, like, example, if Tim was a horrible man and he was trying to manipulate these women, like, because of his own sexual desires or perversions or whatever, well, yeah, then it is manipulation. But if he's going to give an example so that the other person can understand and relate, and that's the thing, at the end of the day, these women can say, nope, I want to save kids, but this is too much. I cannot handle this.
Right.
And here's the thing. Maybe now they know that. Maybe they didn't know that about themselves.
Well, and what does it say about their character? I'm not saying that people with good character don't have marital problems, but I'm saying they all had marital problems. I don't think Tim had everything to do with their marital problems. I don't think he had actually anything to do with their marital problems. It sounds like maybe there's instability in their lives already.
Which is no surprise. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
If you actually talk to people, most people who are honest with you, dude, their life is as messed up as yours, maybe even more so, or a little less. I don't know. But the thing is we live in Instagram world and
right.
Facebook world where it's like, oh, look at me, look at my life, it's so perfect. And I thank goodness there's been some sort of pushback on that.
Yeah.
And basically saying my life is hard, things are rough.
Right.
It's like Instagram world. It's funny because I have some people assume they know exactly who I am, and I'm like, you're assuming you know how I think and who I am based off of what I choose to share on social media.
Right.
Meaning you don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
What's funny is whenever I say that to these people, they will literally stop in their tracks and they won't say I'm right, but they're like, oh, he's got a point. It's like, yes, of course I have a point, because it's you're making this assumption, and it's like, yes, I'm relatively open with who I am, and I don't really deviate that much from the status that
they need to do a documentary on podcasters and influencers on when the camera's turned off. Yeah. Hey, let me read some of these comments. Here's one that says, innocent until proven guilty. I'm very suspicious these allegations only came out after the movie made so much money. Let me keep going. Let me get some of these done. This is from War in Israel, Tim Ballard update. All I could say is horrible. That was the video I did. Was that the one I did the day before yesterday or yesterday? I can't remember.
I think it was the day before yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Okay. These women were all adults. Here's another one about the women being adults. If what they say happened, they were all willing participants at the time. Whatever punishment Tim faces should be given equally to the women. Don Bongino said, I found this interesting. First, they go for the Saturday people. That's the Jews, I think. Then they will come for the Sunday people, the Christians. Be ready. That's kind of off topic, but
no, he's got a great point. We see this all the time. This is what happens, because the people that go after other people, they're never satisfied after they're devouring. They will just devour as much as they can.
Right. Hey, if anybody, okay, so Lori Smith, I don't know if she emailed me. I don't think she did. But Lori, look, if anybody knows Tim Ballard or anybody knows somebody in Spear, I've tried to contact them. I would love to have, if not him, somebody that could come on and talk to me maybe for 10 minutes from someone that knows him close or someone from the organizations or Tim himself for 10 minutes. If you can, that's great. Email me, troyables1971@gmail.com. Let me see here. I wanted to read some of the ones that were against. Debbie Pearson says, lies, lies, and more lies. Tim is one of the best men I know. He has a beautiful wife who love each other and are true and faithful in all things. Sorry, somebody came to my door. I had to tell him I'm on the air. He came to the window. I'm like, I waved him away. Sorry. Tim is one of the best men I know. He has a beautiful wife who love each other and are true and faithful in all things. We know how Satan works, and believe me, he is doing everything he can to destroy all the good Tim and team are doing. Let's not waste our breath on the adversary's tactics. And I don't even like to be saying, well, if he was an alcoholic or if he did cheat on his wife, we don't even know if that's true. Okay.
No, it's literally an allegation. It literally means nothing until the problem is we live in a world now where it's like you hear something and you're like, oh, did you hear this thing? And people will act like it's gospel knowledge, and it's like, no, dude, you're acting like this is like some sort of like law that's been in like institute. It's somebody's, they're speaking crap. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the video where Nancy Pelosi actually talks about like the smear campaign. If you haven't seen the video, you definitely should watch it. Where she basically says, we say something that's untrue, and it's basically to discredit the person, and then you market it. You just market the smear, and it's like, and it's not even necessarily true. It's just garbage. It's not real. And I will say this, something about the lies. Something that came to mind when you were reading that comment. Tim and his wife have adopted children. Do you know what? And Troy, I don't know if you went through the adoption process or anything, but it is excruciatingly difficult. There is so much, like, fine-tooth comb looking at who you are, like everything. Like, my wife and I were going through it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out because there were some issues with the child, family dynamic, like it didn't mesh well. Right. Partly because it was a special needs child. We have a special needs child, so there was a lot of issues there. But the thing is they just don't let you adopt anybody. Sorry. They don't just let anyone just randomly adopt whoever. Like there's this stringent, like, thing that they have. And it's like, I don't know. My point is if you look at the fruits, all signs point to good fruit. If you and that's the thing. It's like, I'm not saying we dismiss these allegations. I say let's look into them. But once again, if these women, if it's so important that they have their voice heard, there needs to be at least one that stands forward and say, I am so and so. Here's my story. And I understand that I'm going to get a lot of grief for this, probably from people who loved him and his family and think that I'm lying. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the greater good.
Well, right, exactly. Let me read this one right here that kind of bugged me. It went on, and then everyone started adding to it. But first, there's two of them, and then I'll finish up here. Lassen Jensen. I am very disappointed in Glenn Beck for how he has approached this. If he truly is his friend, then he would invite him on the show and let him tell his side of the story. Right. How come he hasn't been he's been on a lot of other programs. He was on Adam Carolla, and that's what she says. He and his wife were on the Adam Carolla show about 2 weeks ago, and that is an excellent interview, and my heart remains unchanged about Tim. He said in that interview that he had no idea who these women were. If you haven't seen the interview, go watch it and hear his story. Unlike these anonymous women, Ballard isn't hiding. He and his wife are solid, and he even explains the picture about the tattoos, that they had to take the picture in order to copy the tattoos. But here's the main thing I wanted to pull up. And this person says, she was talking to me, your comments are appalling. Ever been sexually abused? I can't believe you are justifying this behavior if it's true. Seriously sickened. Now, first of all, have I justified sexual abuse at all? No. Okay. And then someone went on and defended them and said, I was also abused as a child. Tim works in a very dark world. I would have said no to any of the things being asked because of my history and awareness of the evils that I don't want to subject myself to again. but they are adult women. Oh no, they were defending me. Sorry. They're adult women. They had a choice. He's not a Svengali. That's what I don't understand. And then I said, have you ever been falsely accused? That's just as bad, I think. I have been falsely accused of something when I was a teenager, and it wasn't good. It wasn't anything like that, but it had something to do with a job that I had, and it had something to do with money, and had nothing. And then I had apologies to me later, but it leaves a pit from hell in your stomach when you are being falsely accused. I'm not saying it's worse than abuse. It's a different demon, but it's bad. So then they go on to say, and here's where I'm starting to realize something as they're saying this. They say, your comments, dude, I've seen Tim, watched him for over 10 years, given thousands to Operation Underground Railroad. We don't know if this person's telling the truth about giving thousands to Operation Underground Railroad. We don't know them from Adam. I've seen him change. This is what they say. Just saw him speak the week before the Vice article came out. And if I didn't know him, I would have thought he was hired drunk. So this person, what, you went and watched him speak, and then a week later you decided you hate his guts? I don't understand. Now, I guess he might have been. Makes a lot of sense now. Do tell me, is taking his son to strip club necessary for saving children? Now, listen to this. There are trolls that come on here, and they lie. The other thing is, I think that Tim, we see something different in his countenance. What I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I think he might be on some pain medicine. Because of some injuries he's had while doing the job. Don't quote me on that, but that can also look like somebody is high or stoned. Okay. So.
Well, and stress will do a number to people too. I mean, like stress, not sleeping. I mean, all of this could be, and I'm not making any excuses. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
I'm just saying there are so many variables that people need to consider before they just, the worst thing is, like, once again, let's take away Mormon or LDS from the whole equation. Okay. A dad took his son to a strip club. Most people wouldn't even bat an eye at that. They'd be like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. It's like, and that's assuming that's even true. I don't know. Have I talked to his son? Have I talked to Tim? No. Have they come out and officially said that and corroborated that story? No. Unless they haven't, I'm not aware of it. I don't know. So many people are just so quick to just, here's the way it is, and I don't know. Oh, it's annoying.
Well, there's been so many things thrown at him, and once again, put that in the bucket. Just put that in the bucket with everything else that is an allegation. That's all. It just all goes in the same thing. And when it's all dried out in the end, and it comes out in the wash. That's what I was looking for. It will come out in the wash that, you find quarters and nickels and dimes in the wash. The bottom line is, even when we do kind of see what it looks like, it's never going to look like what we thought it did. Because human beings look for the worst case scenario all the time, even when it comes to conspiracy theories. Okay. Do you know why the church does business with the Gadiant and robbers? Because they rub elbows with some of them, and they go, look, yes, there is evil, but not everybody that's a Freemason is evil. Not everybody that belongs to the Council of Foreign Relations is privy on backdoor deals with the world. Do you know? Does that? Am I making a point? Not even everybody that's been to the Grove up north in California. What's it called again? Bohemian Grove. Thousands and thousands of people are invited to that. They're not all involved in on 5 people that meet later over a brandy like Richard Nixon or whatever and talk about Vietnam. Okay. Am I making a point here?
Yeah.
So there are, I know the anti-Mormons like to use the word nuance, and I've been using it a lot lately because it works in a lot of different sorts. But if you look up the word nuance, hold on a second here, and you type in definition, one of the things that comes out is it's a shade or shading or subtle distinction or a subtle difference or a here we go. What's the one I was looking at? Degrees, measures, graduations. Okay. In other words, not everything is black and white, but there are many different swatches of gray. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Before I end, do you have anything you would like to add? Or did I overtalk you? I'm sorry.
No. That's my problem. I always have too much to add. No, I just so many people. It's funny. There was a comment on one of your posts, and I almost quoted a scripture on it. I literally read the scripture yesterday, and then I finished watching your video, and then I almost commented the scripture to this guy that was just. He was being a doof, and I don't know if that's a word, doof.
Well, it's better than the other one that sounds like that. I'd rather you say doof.
Yeah, doof.
That's like, did you say fetch on your mission? Fetch.
I'm sure I did, but no. It was a story, John, chapter 8, where it talks about the woman, that gets accused of not being faithful to her husband, whatever, and Christ's like, hey, whoever's innocent here, be the one to cast the first stone. And then they kind of, shrug their shoulders, look at their feet and kind of get away. And because they realize they are the last people, willing to judge. I guess the last thing that I would want to say is, it's like, none of us are perfect. And whether or not Tim is or is not guilty, that's not our place to decide. There is a justice system in place that can I guess hopefully come to some sort of true resolution. I'm sure we've all seen that there has been court cases where people have been found proven innocent that were guilty. Everyone knew that they were guilty. Alternatively, there are other people that have been proven innocent. And there are people to this day that still insist that they're guilty. It's like, but I mean, ultimately it's not a perfect system, but it is a system. And until the court system say Tim is guilty, then it's no one's place really to say whether he is or is not. And that's the stance. It's like innocent until proven guilty. That's been the saying my whole time growing up until in the recent years, where people just will demonize somebody and ruin their life over an accusation. It's beyond me. I cannot believe it. It's really sad in a lot of ways. I too have been falsely accused of something, and a friend told me, she said, was there any sort of police report? I'm like, no. And she goes, and then
wait, you said your name.
I said my name.
It's okay, I'll blot it out. Yeah, but do you know how many people with that name
that's true. Yeah.
You're good, but if you want me to blot that name out, I will.
Either way, whatever.
All right.
Richard the Lebowski.
You're the big Lebowski. Actually, it came out in '98, and it's Jeff the Dude Lebowski, mistaken for a millionaire of the same name, seeks restitution for his ruined rug, and enlists his bowling buddies to help get it. Anyway, go ahead. Let's go ahead and end this.
Yeah, but that's my final point. It's just like, we don't know what the truth is, and regardless what it is, it's not really our place anyway. So,
that's right.
Yeah, and so I don't know. That's where I stand.
All right. Thank you so much, Lebowski. Brothers and sisters, this is the Big Lebowski, and he is a contributor now to the channel until I say otherwise. No, I'm playing. That's so dictatorship. I'm joking when I say. So this is a Big Lebowski. All right, you take care, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay.
Thanks, Troy.
All right, bye-bye.